Time for the business news then on France 24. Now, French President François Hollande, he's given his first major press conference on Tuesday. It went on for well over 2 hours. Economy was kind of top of the agenda, wasn't it?
Yes, and no surprise given that unemployment's over 10% here in France, Stuart. And also the Bank of France has been saying that perhaps France will slip back into recession by the end of the year. Well, the president was saying that unemployment is likely to continue rising, at least in the short term, but he asked to be judged overall on his economic policies over the full term of his presidency.
French President François Hollande came out defending his 6-month record. He acknowledged that unemployment will continue to worsen in France for the next year, but vowed to reverse the trend.
But the only question in my eyes, the only one, is not a state of opinion today. It is the state of France will be in 5 years' time. My mission is a simple one. It is to recover growth and reduce unemployment. And it's on those results, and only those results, that I seek to be judged.
Hollande spoke of the humanitarian crisis in Syria, the economic disaster in Greece, but most expansively of the economy at home, particularly France's debt and the country's corporate competitiveness.
I thought it was a big moment of truth, of political will and unity. Truth in describing the state of affairs and the need to rebuild the social and economic structure of the country and to create opportunities for employment.
The president pledged to reduce the deficit to 3% of GDP. But for one of the leading candidates of the opposition UMP party, there wasn't enough detail.
Yet again, we've had no concrete measure. No strategic vision to improve the country's competitiveness, to reform the labour market, to reduce spending and the debt.
The president stressed the importance of justice, reminding the wealthy they'll be taxed at 75% for 2 years and that tax loopholes will be eliminated.
Just the French conference. We're going to turn now to attention really to the US. It's the turn of the American president to give his press conference later.
That's right, Stuart. Early this afternoon, Washington time, he will be giving a press conference, Barack Obama, of course. And one of the issues amongst many will be this looming fiscal cliff, the $600 billion package of tax rises and spending cuts that will come into effect unless Washington gets a deal done on the budget. Now, he'll be speaking as it was announced that the budget deficit in October was 22% up on a year ago. That's $120 billion in real money. Well, on Tuesday, the US Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner was also speaking about this issue, and he was backing the president's view that richer Americans should be paying a bit more tax to help with their budget problems. But he also warned against trying to delay resolving the issue for too long.
If you say again, as we've had to do before, because there was no alternative, we're going to extend and delay, what gives people confidence that people who have to negotiate this will come to the table and negotiate? Because they'll always believe if they hold out, they could just extend again. So I know the cliff is unattractive. It would cause a lot of damage to the American economy. That damage is eminently avoidable, not that complicated to solve.
So a lot of uncertainty, isn't there always in the business news? What about the markets? Have they reacted?
Well, the markets don't like uncertainty, of course, Stuart, and that's reflected in Wall Street on Tuesday's trading, all down, look, around 0.5% there. In Asia, it's been a bit of a mixed session this Wednesday. There were some down earlier, but as you can see there, all the markets now managing to make some gains so far.
Greece also having a bit of an impact on investors.
Yes, now the country, we were reporting yesterday, the country's been given extra time to implement some of these tough reforms that they're trying to put through, but they haven't yet been given this €31.5 billion loan payment that they desperately need. And one of the big issues was a loan debt repayment for this Friday of €5 billion. People wondering how they were going to pay it. Well, they were in the markets yesterday selling some short-term bonds and they raised €4 billion. So they are just about there, and people seem confident they'll get that debt repayment made on Friday.
As well as Greece, their finance ministers in Europe have been looking at how to get better control of the banks.
That's right, because instability of European banks was a big factor during the crisis. So trying to find ways to strengthen control and regulation is key. Well, while there's broad buy-in on the principle, working out the detail seems to be a bit harder.
Divided over the banking union. Tuesday's meeting about bringing 6,000 Eurozone banks under common supervision has highlighted just how many hurdles remain. Germany is wary of giving up control over its local banks. Britain and Sweden are nervous about how much power the countries outside of the Eurozone would have compared to those within the single currency.
We are in a very, very difficult spot, and our reading of the treaty is very clear. Should have equitable treatment between non-members of the Eurozone and other members of the European Union.
The banking union proposal is a step towards greater economic and political integration between the Eurozone countries. Its supporters like France, Spain and Italy believe common supervision of 6,000 Eurozone banks would make it easier to deal with the bloc's financial problems. Despite the disagreements, officials believe it'll soon be in place.
We still have a lot of work ahead of us, but there is some momentum. I believe it's possible to have an agreement in December, although I know it will be difficult.
For a banking supervisor to work, there must be consensus on just how far its authority can stretch. The European Commission hopes that political agreement will come, allowing for a banking union to be in place next year.
Well, let's get some more of the day's company news. And results from Cisco suggest that the US economy may be turning a corner. The world's biggest maker of computer networking equipment said profits were up 18%. That improvement driven largely by US firms, while demand from Europe continues to drop.
Toyota is recalling 2.8 million vehicles. The Japanese car maker says water pump and steering problems are to blame for that. It's the second such incident in the space of a few weeks. Toyota recalled 7.5 million vehicles last month over a separate problem.
And Nokia is hoping to profit from problems at its rival Apple. It's putting a mapping application called Here on sale in the next few weeks. That follows Apple's launch of its own app that misplaced towns and landmarks. Nokia is also beefing up its expertise in maps with plans to buy California-based mapping specialist Earthmine.
Now we've got another famous Frenchman who could be packing his bags for Belgium.
Well, that's if we're to believe the Belgian newspaper Le Soir, which is reporting that the French actor Gerard Depardieu, star of films including Green Card, Asterix,
and Obelix.
And Obelix,
exactly.
of course.
He is Obelix.
That he's hopping over the border. Now, it says that he's bought a house in Nechin, which is a very small Belgian village near the border with France. Now, it's worth pointing out as well, perhaps, that Gerard Depardieu was a prominent supporter of Nicolas Sarkozy in the last presidential campaign. And there have been speculation that perhaps the new high tax rate, 75% on people earning over €1 million, is putting off people like him and others. This Belgian village of Nechin is a real favourite with wealthy French people. In fact, a quarter of the population is believed to be French there. We can see some pictures of it there. That includes the Mouliez family. They own a very famous supermarket chain here in France, Auchan. They live there already, so he'll have some wealthy neighbours around him. Now, there's been no official comment from the actor. We should point that out. But he won't be the only one. There was member speculation in September that the head of LVMH, the luxury group, Bernard Arnault, he was taking Belgian citizenship. And again, he also denied it was due to tax reasons. So perhaps there's just something very special about Belgium.
Could well be. I was thinking an hour ago I asked whether Asterix was going with him. I'm equally concerned about Dogmatics because Obelix has that little white dog.
Aha.
Matthew doesn't know.
They'll need a bigger house for
They will need a
people.
bigger house. Yeah, but maybe he can't take him quarantine reasons. I don't know. Who knows
that?
All right, Matthew, thank you very much. Matthew with the business news here on France 24. Latest news coming up very shortly. Do stay with us.